All right, I hope that this helps somebody as I go on my walk. So, excuse me for not looking at the camera um, because the sun is this way, so looking this way is better. But I want to get this message out to you because it's helpful and it's going to free somebody. Um, so, I want to share with you a bit of my story of how God healed me and along with my free will and helped um, change my life. And healing, y'all, really starts with, I want to start with one thing. That one thing that healing does, God always shines light on the darkness, shines light on what is not true. And so you have to recognize and be open to hearing the Spirit of God as God begin to shine light on what is not true. Let me give you an example how God began healing my perspective, healing my hurt, healing my defense mechanisms, healing this wall that I grew up with most of my life. And it was brought to light what the things that I was carrying. It's important to be mindful of what you believe, why you believe it, and where the root of that belief came from. So, for example, I had a loved one who gave me their advice about trust. This advice that they gave me, I held on to it as face value. So I placed what they shared, what they told me, what their experiences were, what they passed down to me. I put that over my own question of, you ever had like a teacher or someone share something with you and you felt like that don't feel right, or that doesn't sound right, or this doesn't sound like this is coming from a pure place or from a place of love. This sounds like an unresolved issue that you have not addressed. Some people don't have that, but I have always had this. We all do. Let me pause. We all have this, our intuitive hunch. Some are stronger than others, and mine has always. I've always had mine's a little bit. I've always been sensitive to that, but I still believed what they shared with me. So, for example, this particular person said to me that, you can't trust anybody. I've had, this happened to me, and this thing happened to me, and so you can't trust anybody. And so that thing, when that person shared that with me, I was like, man, you can't trust anybody? Like, dang, well, like, who wants to live a life like that? Like, where you can't trust anybody? And so, do you hear that voice? Do you hear the reaction that I had within myself? That's what I'm talking about. That questioning, like, well, dang, well, what kind of advice is that? I'm not sure if that is something that I want to believe, but since they said it, I guess I must believe it. I guess I have to believe it. And so that particular agreement I really carried with me. And on top of that, I had other experiences in my life that validated my reasoning to not trust. And so subconsciously, I believed, oh, I can't trust people, right? And that thing really, what it spoke back to me was really that I couldn't trust myself. And it created more experiences. And because I kept that agreement in my mind, I created more of experiences in my mind, or oftentimes my mind will bring back the very thing that I had encountered from the past to keep me in that loop of believing that I couldn't trust. And I'm like, well, what kind of life is that? And what kind of life was that? And how was I creating that for myself? And I had to sit with myself when I had my encounter with God, and God began illuminating me and shining light on those belief patterns, shining light in those dark places in my mind, I started realizing, wait a minute, this really isn't my stuff. Even though I have maybe experienced something that might have not caused me to trust, even though I might have experienced things that might have caused me to be bitter, that was an experience, that was an encounter. But you know what? I'm not going to keep that in my pocket or hold on to that stuff. I'm not going to keep that in my pocket. I'm not going to hold on to that stuff because that stuff rottens you. That stuff affects your health. It affects your mental state. It affects your heart, your emotions, your physical state. It affects the flow of God in you. It affects the real truth to come out of you. It affects the way that you love. It affects your heart. I said that. It affects the way that you show up, because you're not showing up as your true self. You're showing up as that other stuff. And so get rid of it. I really had to sit with it. Get rid of it. No matter where it came from, who said it, maybe what you have experienced that has caused you to not trust, or has caused you to believe that. The power is you, right? So the experiences, I get that the experiences are oftentimes, just lessons, but they, in truth, these lessons have no power over you unless you give it power. And that's what I believe, that the illusion, and oftentimes what the enemy will put a web over our minds, because we are agreeing to stuff. We are attaching ourselves to belief patterns, to the experiences, and we're holding on to the stuff, and we aren't being healed. We're showing up bitter. We're showing up angry. We're showing up wounded. And we're thinking that that is a way of protecting ourselves. But y'all, in actuality, what that thing is doing is hurting you, because it becomes the block of you really experiencing that life that Jesus was talking about, and that life more abundantly. And so just become aware. If you have maybe something that might trigger you, or something that might cause you to spiral in that space, or in that past experience, or examine that. Okay, where is that coming from? This is free advice. Where is that coming from? Where is that coming from? Who did it come from? Or what have I kept, or experiences from my past, and I have not released the hurt, or the wound, or the root of where that came from? You have the power to release it. You have the power to let go, because it's about you. It's about you showing up as your best self. It is about the true Christ that is in you, that wants to permeate through you. But you got to let that stuff go. You got to let that stuff go and give it to God, and cultivate your relationship with God as God begin revealing the truth of who you really are, and not the stuff you're agreeing to. I hope that helps.